and that's about to happen. Did you guys all get a message saying the meeting's being live streamed?
Yes, we did.
And then I'm also going to record. And then John walked away. And then John's gonna do everything else because he's the chair.
Sorry, our Halloween decorations have not been put in the attic yet.
Well, our Halloween decorations are still sitting around the dining room table next door, and we have a husband and wife skeleton dressed appropriately having some wine.
Mm-hmm.
So
we did that too.
So.
When you find them in the kitchen cooking, it's time to.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Okay, it is 7:05. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. 7:05. Let's start this meeting. Good evening, everybody. I'm John Arnold, co-chair of the UNNC Planning and Zoning Committee. Today's meeting on Wednesday, November 16th is called to order. And I'll introduce my co-host, my co-chair, Laura Myers.
Laura Myers. I'm also on the governing board. I'm the co-chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee, and I live in Angeles Vista. And
we're going through the protocol, which I understand, I learned this from LAX meeting today, that March, February, the whole COVID thing is coming to an end, and then I think no one knows what's going to happen with Zoom versus no Zoom versus in person, no, not in person. So good luck with that, Hakeem, and all the things you do for the city. I have no idea. LAX has no idea. Anyway, so item number 1 on the agenda, I will share my screen so everyone can see it. Item number 1 is determination to continue to hold meetings virtually. I need to read this. The Board of Neighborhood Commissioners and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, with guidance from the Los Angeles City Attorney, have established that BONC has the authority to adopt AB 361 findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54953 on behalf of the city's neighborhood councils to determine that due to the COVID-19 state of emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health and safety of attendees. Ergo, this meeting is being conducted virtually pursuant to that directive. Any questions? 2.5 years in. So welcome everybody. Welcome to the UNNC Planning and Zoning Committee. The first thing we do is we go around the room for anyone who wants to introduce themselves. Please do. And also state if you are planning to vote today that you are a stakeholder. We can, if you have a question of whether you're a stakeholder or not, please ask that question, or otherwise wait till next time. But anyway, everyone's welcome, whoever's a stakeholder, to vote and participate. Everyone's welcome to participate, whether you're a stakeholder or not. So going around the room, I'm John Arnold. I'm a stakeholder. I live in Jefferson Park, and I'm also on the UNNC board. Laura? Yes, and as mentioned, I live at Laura Myers. I live in Angeles Vista, and I am a stakeholder. Okay, Hakeem?
Yes, I'm Hakeem Park Davis. I'm the Deputy for Planning and Land Use and Economic Development in Council District 10. I'm not going to be voting today.
So, Teresa?
Hi, everybody. I'm Teresa Masonette. I am a stakeholder. I represent the West Adams Avenues on the board of the UNNC.
Great, thanks, Teresa. Donna?
Hi, everyone. I'm Donna Jones, acting chair of West Adams Avenues, and I will be voting today.
Great, thank you. And Dolores?
Dolores Spears here, board member of UNNC, stakeholder, and if necessary, I will be voting.
Great, thank you. And then 323-734-49980. If you wish, please do. If you don't, that is okay too. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, hi there, Missy Mogul. I live in the area. Most of you know me. I have no idea whether I'm allowed to vote or not, so that remains to be seen. I don't know. but I have comments to make. That's why I'm here.
We welcome your comments. Okay, thanks so much. That's everyone who's in the room currently. Going on to item number 3. Any public comments from anybody for an item that is not on the agenda this evening?
Yes. Oh, I'll raise my hand.
Who is that? Oh, there we go.
That's Laura.
I got Donna. Donna, do you have a comment?
I thought Dolores was first, but I will go. Is
Oh.
1860 Manhattan on the agenda today? I wasn't able to
It is
figure
not.
out.
No,
is
it's not.
All right, just wanted to make a comment. They are having a huge party tomorrow night, starting at 5 till midnight. I think they have ballet, Laura, tomorrow. Because ballet refused to work for them. You guys are aware of the fact that they still have not handled their issues with people double parking south, double parking north, and just overall blocking the entire street from 18th to Washington. We're supposed to have a meeting with DOT, the neighborhood prosecutor, and whoever, and the members of the community that are a part of this. It will be happening after Thanksgiving. And just wanted to let you know the same problem is still happening. 1860 Manhattan Place.
Just point of, we can't talk about it. It's not on the agenda, but I assume, Hakeem, you're aware of this situation on Manhattan Place. You are on mute. You're on mute, Hakeem.
Was that 1860, 60, or 1616?
1860 Manhattan, the corner of Washington and Manhattan Place, next to the old district office or the current district office. The Debbie Allen Dance Academy didn't figure out about parking when they built the space. So now they use the entire street for it. And we are dealing, DOT is amazed. So we will be doing a small Zoom with the evening sergeants for DOT because they are very concerned, as well as the neighborhood prosecutor. And I think Danielle may join, but I have not gotten information back from her. We wanted to have a 30-minute Zoom to discuss options for them to stop what they're doing. The other night, a person took pictures of emergency vehicles stuck in that. They could not get through either. So it's the issue that's happening. Beautiful idea, but no parking.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Donna. Dolores.
Yes, just a quick question with Donna. Has the owner of the property been invited to that meeting? It probably would be helpful to discuss it with them.
They refuse to respond at this point.
Oh, okay. My public comment is we have Mayor-elect Karen Bass for the mayor of Los Angeles. Yes. That's it.
A neutral, non-political congratulations to the mayor-elect.
A total political yes.
As chair, I can only say totally neutral. Congratulations.
All money ain't good money.
Laura.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on the earlier comment you made, John, about the end of the emergency and Zoom meetings or no Zoom meetings. What Raquel Beltran and other representatives from Dunn and the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners are doing is that they have money set aside for some, but thinking only 14 neighborhood councils, to practice hybrid things. And otherwise, I think we're back in person on March 1st. It's not been well settled at the state level. I believe our committees will be able to do something weird, which is have just the chair or two chairs in a public place, and everybody else can be on Zoom. Just because of the nature of how we appoint committees, meaning we don't have large committees, so it just has to be the quorum of the committee, which would be the chairs. So, and then we could probably from there run a Zoom. Just because we're finding a loophole in the state law.
And
But most neighborhood councils won't be able to do that.
And it's not on the agenda, but I'm going to ask a informational question. Does that mean wherever the chairs are together in a physical place that everyone else is invited to that place?
Yes. Yeah. No. Essentially, it has to be a public meeting,
yep.
But we can also have remote. I mean, in other words, we can. We're not being funded for it by them, but they're funding a more elaborate thing, and they're not funding UNNC. Period. So our board meetings will be back in person, as far as I know, unless something changes.
Interesting. Okay. Any other?
And I don't know if the committees want to be back in person or not. I'm just saying we have a loophole situation because the only requirement now will be that a quorum of the body be present in the public.
Okay. Well, any other public?
I do not believe David realized we're on video. He just wanted to. So that's my public comment. I can make a second public comment regarding the thing we're not discussing, but on 1860 Manhattan Place. Just because I saw Hakeem taking notes. It's double parking on both sides of the street as parents either drop off or pick up children. But what they're doing is leaving their cars in the double parking. So it's bad enough that their cars are there, but they're also without drivers to go get their children and hold their hands and bring them back or to drop them off. So anyway, that's it. We'll probably ultimately agenda.
Want to tell the truth, Laura, sometimes the cars are empty and sometimes they're occupied.
Right. So last night at 7, they were all empty and it was on both sides of the street. It's not always.
Okay, thanks for those points of information. Chris Driscoll, welcome to our meeting. If you wish to introduce yourself, please do. If you do not, you do not need to. But we have another attendee. Chris, I saw you unmute for a second.
Yeah, I can say hi. I live in Jefferson Park. I saw you guys were talking about that housing thing. So
great. Well, welcome. Because you are in Jefferson Park, that means you are a stakeholder, and if you wish to vote, you may. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Laura and I have divvied up items 4 and 5. Did a little homework for both so we could be as informed as we can about each. Laura is going to take item number 4 and I'm going to take item number 5. So I'm going to hand over the gavel to Laura to talk about digital kiosks on Washington Boulevard.
And if you want to unshare the screen so I can potentially share the screen.
Yep.
You're still sharing.
I know I am. I can't get back to my. I can't get back to this.
I might be able. Here, wait. I think I can boot you off.
Just to boot me off.
Yep. It didn't yet boot you off though. Okay. Let's see what happens when I try to share this. Does it boot you?
Nope. Yep. You're on. I don't know where the screen went. It just disappeared.
Okay. So can you guys even see anything yet? I'm not getting a notice.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So essentially the city council has done a quick motion, but it seems to be then, a quick motion and then it'll be just traveling its way through different council committees and may go back and need a report. But the motion is to enter into a contract with a company called IKE Smart City to install digital kiosks in quite a number, like up to 20 at the moment, a number of stretches of the city we're not really clear what they're doing, to provide wayfinding and information, maybe places for a person who's on housing, maybe it's visitor information. It seems not yet well defined, but there's this motion to do it. It was made by council members of Farrell and Bruce Cayano, and then as long, yeah, I don't want to read through the whole motion. I'm going to unshare that, but it did not pass unanimously. And I'm also getting a message that my internet is unstable. It's the same message I always get. But what I did really more importantly want to do is, since we don't even know what these are, I'm going to share again. Tell me if you've got the screen up. John, do you have the screen up? Because you're muted. Yes. This is a
Yes,
video.
I can see it.
Okay, so I'm gonna. It's a 2-minute video, and
Do
it
you want me
kind
to
of will
share it?
show what it is. Can you see that?
It is, but it's really garbled.
Okay, well, just I don't want to play the whole thing. I just want to. I'm gonna.
The IKE team has the expertise and the software to guarantee a successful program. IKE's expertise allows for a kiosk experience that's customized for the user, and it's ever evolving. The Miami DDA kiosks feature customized event lists, survey questions, poster applications, photo booth frames, and so much more.
We decided to go with the option that highlights art. We have the Wynwood walls. We have Miami's best graffiti guide.
IKE Smart City came to me and said,
I'm gonna. Okay, so I just wanted to show, this is just a snippet of it, but what these are is themes, are kiosks all over whatever town. Hang on, let me. Sorry. I took it off our share screen, but I forgot to turn it off on my computer. So this is the program that they're looking at. And then what struck for John and I was then that there's a map of the proposed location. And one of these proposed locations, you can see.
Yeah, we can't. It's really.
Right.
It's unclear.
Well, do you see just a green line? And then I'll undo this.
We can see a line, but it's not really clear. But I think if we all.
Well, the green line, this green line, and then I'll just stop sharing. It starts at Arlington and goes to La Brea on Washington Boulevard. So this is it. This map is in the package. Here's the problem. No one's reached out to us or any other neighborhood council to tell us about the program or even why the Bureau of Tourism might have selected Washington Boulevard from Arlington to La Brea. So that's, our area. I don't know if this was to put a spotlight on our emerging culture. And if it is, then it needs to go a little bit east of Western, start as a start place, and grab the Ray Charles Museum, which none of us have seen because it's been closed since COVID, but they were starting work on that. The Debbie Allen Dance Academy, which we were referring to just a few minutes ago, the Amazing Grace Conservatory. I mean, in other words, if this is a cultural thing, they've missed a number of our, recently emerging institutions. If this is about restaurants, I don't know why they chose Washington Boulevard. I mean, in other words, there's no information why they chose us, or if this is an opportunity for us or just an opportunity for drivers driving by to have their attention grabbed by digital stuff, although it looks more pedestrian, and end up crashing into more of the trees that we're trying to plant, which, I mean, I'm only half joking because our trees keep getting crashed into. So, Dolores asked us to bring this forward, and it was, I called the Tourism Bureau, the person just wasn't in, so I don't really know the core basis for the program. But I do know that the scenic.org, the organization that opposes digital billboards, all things digital, is opposed to this as well. So I'm not sure if this just adds more digital blight, or if it would be a useful interactive tool. So again, two different issues. One is the visual blight or not, and two is why us, why Washington Boulevard. And I guess 2.5 would be, is it an opportunity for us to showcase our heritage? In other words, would they be creating this in collaboration where we could have our historical landmarks on it, the cultural institutions that are emerging, all those things, but I don't know the answers. John?
Did you notice where else, either as like sections of Crenshaw or Mert Park, other places that we all recognize as places vibrant? Do we know where the other streets are?
Let me go back up to, so on the front page, and you're saying that there's no point in me sharing, right?
Why don't you, if you want to share the link?
I'll try sharing the first page. Because it does have that list. So I'll try doing just that first page and tell me what you can see.
Yeah, it's all a little chunky.
Blurry again.
Yeah.
Would it be better to show it through your system, John? Because we can't read anything on this.
It would be better. Laura, can you share the link in the chat, please?
Yes, you mean of our agenda packet?
Oh, it's in the agenda packet. Yeah.
But if you don't have that up, you have that up right now?
I do. And which item is it? Maps of streets of Ike kiosks. Let me see if that brings up. Yes, that's it. Okay, I can share.
So I'm going to share it for everybody else anyway.
So I can share that now.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Okay.
So obviously I edited it because I added the UNNC right there in the middle.
So can everyone see this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry, guys. I clearly need a new computer for Zoom.
So there you go. So it's a swath between downtown and the west side.
Right. But you see the little random Washington Boulevard right there in the middle. I don't want to say no necessarily if this is an opportunity, but I'd love to know why us.
Mm-hmm.
And I might want to say no if it's just going to make us look like Neon Tokyo.
And I why north of the 10? I don't know what it'd be interesting to know why, is this a known tourist belt? It's really, it's all these questions, and I don't know.
I mean, again, not terrible idea. It stops just short of Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles on the other side of La Brea, but I think it's not about the restaurant, because if it were, it would be Adams Boulevard at this point.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of hands raised. Should I be calling on them or you, Joe?
Yeah, you have the gavel, but I can help if you want.
Okay, so I'm going to call on Dolores first, Teresa.
Okay, I saw this motion and thought it was something that UNNC needed to discuss, because my main concern was safety. With digital flashing across the screen, people are already on their cell phones being distracted. And so now we're going to have these digital billboards or kiosks or whatever you want to call them, which is, to me, would be more distracting. But Taylor Fife brought up at the meeting that these digital things would pay for shelters at bus stops. And I wasn't I wasn't aware of that. And then from the video, I see, are people allowed to find stuff at this kiosk? That would be helpful to pedestrians and bus riders. So now I don't know, but I'm still concerned about the safety and want to know if there has been any statistics in other places where these kiosks are with regards to safety.
Okay. I will say that Taylor later emailed me and said that he was conflating, or in other words, putting together the bus shelter digital advertising with the kiosk, and they're not the same program. So he's no longer sure. None of us are sure if the City of LA is paying for these or being paid for them. So that's another open question, but this does not pay for bus shelters. Teresa. And then I think Mitzi is next. Teresa.
I would like to know, first of all, would we not like to increase pedestrian traffic along Washington Boulevard? Could that not be part of greater economic development? I mean, I understand the digital blight component, but if people are walking down Washington and they're trying to locate, a restaurant or Starbucks or the Underground Museum, which I know is not open right now, but maybe this would be an opportunity for them to find that. Also, is this something that may help us when the Olympics come, where there may be activities around here, and by having these kiosks, we can direct people to find out more information about our community? I just think that those are a couple points to think about.
Okay, and I'm typing some of these questions into the chat. Mitzi, you're next.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you a number of reasons why this is a bad idea. There are no reasons for it to be a good idea. First of all, okay, it's already been said the digital signs will be distracting to drivers. That's number one. Number two, there are no tourists walking on Washington. In fact, there are very few local people who walk on Washington. It's not exactly a hotbed of pedestrian activity. Not between Arlington and La Brea, for sure. That's number two. The next thing is, if the point of this is to bring increased tourism, shouldn't these ads be in other cities? I don't understand how tourism plays into this. Doesn't make any sense. The next thing is there's been no outreach to the community on this, and that really bothers me. This motion, if you actually read it, this motion is nothing but a word salad. It doesn't explain what will be installed, the size of the installation, what it will display, how it will be displayed. There's no explanation for any of this. It's a word salad without it actually meaning anything. The next thing is, it says the kiosks will be owned and managed by this outside company. Really? Well, who's going to oversee the content? How is that going to be managed? Do they get to decide? Again, there's been no discussion of any of this. The next thing is, just because Houston ran an RFP process and picked this IKE Smart City as their winner, why is Los Angeles not running its own RFP process? Maybe a local company will have a better idea than this. I don't know why we're just, because it says, Houston is similar to Los Angeles. What, so we gotta stick with who they picked? Where is that written? The next thing is, and I'm almost to the end of this list, there are lots of things wrong with this motion and proposal, and there is nothing right. We just had an election, and the makeup of the city council is about to change. So let's let people speak through their newly elected representatives. Oh, yeah, right. No, they haven't even been given a chance to speak through the current elected representatives. No one's been asked to weigh in on this. I live right near Washington. I didn't get any notice of this. If I hadn't seen that this was on the agenda for the meeting tonight, I wouldn't be any the wiser. And finally, it says in there has been no fiscal analysis of this program. Well, of course not, because you can't analyze something that hasn't been designed yet. There's no way to determine what the cost will be because we don't know what it is or what it wants to be. And then to the point of the lady before me, I'm sorry, I don't recall your name. If somebody's looking for something, they want to know where a Starbucks is or whatever. Really? They haven't got a phone? Everybody's got a phone. Even people in prison have phones. Everybody's got a phone. You can find a Starbucks or anything else that you're looking for. You don't need a digital kiosk in the middle of Washington between La Brea and Arlington. People coming for the Olympics are not going to be hanging out on Washington Boulevard between Arlington and La Brea. That's not what they're coming for. They're not going to be there. So that's not your audience. And again, this thing hasn't been actually designed. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It doesn't know who its audience is. And therefore, this thing should be dead before it even breathes a breath of life. This thing is over and done. It should be. If they want to have some kind of wayfinding or something, then come to the community with a fully fleshed out idea and plan, and don't just tell me, oh well, Houston did it, and they're just like us, so whoever they picked and however they did it, that'll be groovy. We'll do the same thing. And that is the sum total of most of my comments. But really, this thing hasn't even been designed. Nobody knows what the hell they're voting on.
Okay, thank you so much. John,
Okay.
Thank you, John.
So I agree with the concerns. I think, is it going to be advertisements? Is it going to be glowing Coca-Cola signs? The fact that we don't know anything, I think is a red flag, and I'd like to know more. I don't think it's dead in the water. I think it's like, I just want to know more. I want to know why us. When you look at the maps, it's downtown, it's Westwood Village, Sunset Boulevard, it's the vibrant sections of Los Feliz. I'm not saying that we don't deserve it, but it does make me question why the stretch of Washington. I want them in Lamert. I want them on Crenshaw, if they are what we are imagining, and granted it's only imagination now, then I want that opportunity as well. But they've only left us with imagination. And also I get concerned about, we all know what happened to newspaper boxes when the newspapers went away. They became urban trash, dead urban trash on our streets. So if this company goes belly up, if they break, if they get graffiti, if they get, something happens, do we live with these metal boxes for the next 40 years and they become relics? So I want to make sure that there's culpability and accountability. And we also get, they aren't Coca-Cola signs, or there's something that is pertinent to our neighborhood, and that but right now it's all imagination. I can imagine them being wonderful. I can imagine them being awful. And I hope that they're wonderful, because the downtown looks like it's going to be coated with them. So I hope that they'll bring some kind of vibrancy to a true pedestrian zone. But that said, so many questions, and that's what I think we just need answers, and when we can take a proper vote on them, or at least give our opinion. Not that would be.
Well, it's kind of ironic, because for all these years, we've been begging the city to do a specific plan for Washington Boulevard from Normandy to Crenshaw, but it could be longer, and then Mid-City wanted from Crenshaw to Culver City. It's sort of the same proposal. where we could create a series of destination sections, you know, a culinary and cook section. And that was before Surface made the decision to move here. So it was sort of like we were modeling it after Surface, and then Surface arrived. And we didn't have an underground museum, but we were envisioning more art galleries. And we have some art galleries too. So we were hoping Washington Boulevard would become a destination in a variety of ways. And maybe somebody read our proposal for the specific plan on our website, but it again feels like, why us? I mean, others, we know why us, but why do they think us? I mean, what, you know, I think that's the key question. I had written down a lot of the questions in the chat. I don't, you know, this is not good minute taking, but what should we be doing from here, John? Should we be writing a letter? I mean, I know Hakeem is here and he's hearing a lot of this, but should we be writing a letter to whom, saying here are all of our questions? We don't actually have a position or answers. I mean, would that be, you know, write a letter that is filled with questions?
I think so. If anything, if it seems like the vote is imminent, it's happening any minute now, if this week, next week, or next month. So I think anything that we can just say, wait a minute, even if it doesn't cause anyone to wait a minute, because it seems like this has a life of its own. You know, at least we can say, I don't know if trying to jump up and down and block it is a right approach, because we just don't know. There's so many questions. But I want, you know, if something goes, if we put in an objection about what ifs, what if this is all just Coca-Cola ads or Starbucks ads or McDonald's, whatever it is that any one of us might be for or against? What if it becomes that? At least we have said, well, we wrote a letter asking, and then it became this other thing. You know, at least we can at least voice our opinions. And if things come to pass, we can say, let's start over, or let's revisit this, or let's see how we can make it better. But I think we have to do some kind of voice.
Well, also a document I did not share, and you guys know, even if I try to share it now, and I could, you might not be able to read it, or my internet connection tonight, but the city attorney raised a lot of questions. And I can try sharing the document, but I could just read it, you know, might summarize it better. And what the city attorney said, that the motion requests that the city attorney's office prepare and present a contract within 30 days. And the city attorney said, however, before, and underlined before it can be determined whether such a contract can be entered into, the following substantive and procedural matters must first occur. So one was the CEQA analysis must be done by the city, and it could be done by the Bureau of Engineering. Two is, in addition to the CEQA analysis, a determination has to be made that whether the existing contract with Houston can be used as a model pursuant to LAAC section 10.15 AA, because it's not necessarily a good template. Another thing to consider is whether it's in the city's best interest to utilize a competitive process to award a contract, since the city was already put on there because other vendors exist to perform this sort of work. So, I mean, and then there's a number of other concerns. So I am not positive that it would be appropriate for the city council to ignore the city attorney's memo, but that could happen because it happens all the time. And I think Missy made a good point that we're about to see a sea change, or a little wave change, a little bit of a change in city council anyway. So, you know, I don't know if they're going to vote it in. Mike Bonin issued a minority report because he voted against this, but I think also, again, he won't be on city council. So now we are certainly racing behind a different race, but I'm not sure that means we shouldn't be writing a letter, because I feel like when the city attorney says you have to do a CEQA analysis, I think you have to do a CEQA.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hakeem, do you know anything? Hakeem, do you know anything about this, or even why Washington Boulevard?
I don't. But what I would say is you guys have very valid concerns, and a lot of them resonate with me as well. My primary question is why a motion from Joe Buscaino is affecting our district. Um, with that being said, what I would do is I would support a letter going to our office to the councilwoman expressing these concerns. And you're right, Laura, I've been taking avid notes on this discussion, but I think it would be great to have your letter in the record so that I can raise this flag to both the councilwoman and our legislative deputy. It hasn't reached city council yet for a vote. It was only a motion that was submitted. So with that, if there is a report back that comes back from the city attorney and any other agency like tourism, that report back would be the vote. So if any program were to come out of that, that would predicate a contract with IKE, then at least we would have, your concerns on the record. And if we need to make amendments to it, at that point, we'll have clear documentation of what your concerns are.
So
Dolores has her hand up too, John.
sorry. Dolores?
Yeah, I keep forgetting to unmute myself. Well, that was the reason why I raised my hand based on what Hakeem brought up, that any letter that goes anywhere, our city councilwoman should be made aware of the community's concern. And I don't think the letter should indicate that we are opposed to this. It's just that we have questions and concerns, unanswered questions and concerns about the process and the way the motion is written.
So,
And John.
So I think I can, let's make a, we can, if we want to turn this into a motion, let's do that. But I think we should write a letter, bullet points of concerns that we've raised, and I have a list of them here, which I'm going to read, and that are concerns / questions. For example, we are concerned about safety. What is the history of safety in other cities? Are they a distraction? Are they, what is that safety question? So these are the questions I got from everyone's comments. Without, to your point, Dolores, without a for or against, or without saying this is bad because or good because. So safety concerns, the determination of content, and the questions beyond that. Is it advertisement? Is it whose advertisements? Is it whose history? All these things about who determines this. What is the long-term maintenance? What will happen to these after their life is gone? And what happens if they're damaged? I guess rather than say why Washington Boulevard, which sounds to me cynical, what were the criteria for the chosen streets, which would get to the answer about why Washington Boulevard if we knew the criteria. There's a question about what is the experience of other cities? What was the outcome in Houston? Was it a positive thing? What came from it? And then a question about why has the process not included? We're concerned about the process of not being included thus far, and why we have to insert ourselves proactively versus getting a proper notification, and writing all that in a letter to CD10 and bullet points in those. Did I miss anything? Any key?
Well, and then also making the point that this might be an opportunity to showcase our community, but does the community have the opportunity to help create the content?
So I would put that under content. I was imagining like content and all the questions and safety and all the questions. So that's what I would propose if anyone wants to make.
Well, so you saw the weird motion I posted to the chat because I just couldn't keep up with the list you were reading out loud. But,
so I moved.
Yes, I wrote, John is reading the list.
So I moved that we write a letter that has a bullet points of concerns / questions. So concerns elaborated with questions about safety, content, long-term, just maintenance in general, criteria for chosen streets. Data from other cities about how these have been effective or used or not used. And then questions, concerns about the process thus far of engaging in the communities that they've been in.
Second.
I lost the whole last piece.
So experience of other cities, data.
Right, I got
How
that.
they've been-
Data from other cities about how they've been utilized, are they effective? And then your last,
Process, why we have not been alerted. We wouldn't have been alerted unless we did our due diligence. Thank you, Dolores.
moved, like, seconded. And then can you guys just review what I wrote in the chat? And also, Hakeem, is there any, our governing board meets on the 1st of December. Is that going to be too late for us to write a letter?
I don't think so. Sorry, I had to start making dinner, but I don't think so. You know, the motion is relatively young, and we're in recess right now. We're going to have a birth of motions that come up next week, but then after that, we're going back on recess until January.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think you guys have a little bit of time. It's going to take the city attorney probably until January, mid-January, February to get back to us.
No, I'm saying, oh my gosh, you get a month off? Well, you probably don't get a month
No,
off.
no. My boss gets a month off. I have to work double hard.
So I know Mitzi, you have your hand up, and I think Mitzi, you had asked a whole lot of questions. I also threw those into the chat. They're not off the table for a letter. It's just John had a shorter list of the motion.
I think everything that Mitzi brought up was included.
Yeah, I just want. Can I just say something real quick, and then I
Sure.
got to run. Yeah, I want to make sure that all of my comments do get addressed in the letter. Again, the fiscal analysis, and they make a point of saying that there's been no fiscal analysis. Well, of course, there can't be, but I think it's important. I mean, we're spending money and we don't know what we're spending and what we're spending it on. I think that's pretty critical, especially these days. People are very, very concerned with how their tax dollars are being spent. So I'd like to see that addressed in the letter. And also the whole concept of the RFP process and just accepting something because Houston did it. I mean, that just makes absolutely no sense.
So Mitzi, I have all of your.
They like
Yeah,
this company.
Mitzi,
they picked them. So
Mitzi, I have all 9 of your points, and I think they
Okay.
all fit in one of the buckets, and I'll get them. In.
Okay.
Thanks.
Right, and
All right.
and keep in mind, nothing in this motion explains, are they paying us, meaning the city, or is the city paying them?
That's all part of the fiscal analysis.
Right, that, I understand. I'm just saying there's
Yes.
nothing. So
Right.
that would be, that's a question, not an answer. Okay.
So I say
Right.
let's.
All right, thank
Any
you.
other comments
you.
before we go to a vote? Okay, Laura, this is your gavel.
Oh, right. So I'm sorry. So we're gonna lower Mitzi's hand. And so all in favor of this motion, please raise your hand either digitally or on the screen. Raise mine digitally. And we know Hakeem's not voting. So we have everyone is in favor of the motion except Crystal is not voting at the moment. So I'm going to ask you all to take your hands down, please, including myself. And Chris, let us know, are you voting no? You can raise your hand now, or are you just not voting?
Okay.
not voting. Okay, so motion passes with no no's.
Great.
And I'm gonna send the gavel back to you, John.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
So I'm going to share my, so the next item is called LCI, and I know we all have 3-letter acronym fatigue over the years with TOC and, or 3 or 4-letter CPIO, everything else. So this is a new one called LCI. I just heard of it this week. So I did a little research about what it is. And the motion that's in, or the description that's in the agenda, I'm going to share my screen. Is this, and it's basically it's basically this. It's a motion to create some kind of more incentive program to allow for more density with, and they get very faster, easier, better, smaller scale. They use words mom and pop. That's in their official website. And getting something through the city, but what hasn't, and getting and making recommendations to get the boulevards to be more vibrant, denser corridors. It all sounds really familiar to me, going back a long time, including TOC. But I don't know how this is different, and it's not a policy yet. All this is what I found is that it's a, let me go through what it is, and I'll show you that it's a little vague at this point. So this looks very much like what Laura showed you. It's also in our packet. This is the motion, and it's basically to direct the various city entities, mostly the planning department, to investigate these things that are in the I therefore move paragraph. Waivers of reduction in setback, we've all seen that before with density bonus and TOC, including reduction in floor area and development standards, inclusionary housing, we've seen that before. Minimum density requirements, we have not seen that, but I think, so it means if you're redeveloping a lot, you have to do at least some density, and provisions to encourage greater density, which might mean smaller units, which would mean more units in less space. But also the caveats with which the exclusions, which means, but these things are not included in the directives, which might cause hazards or things that we don't want. For example, creating density in a high fire hazard zone, a sense of historic districts, and open space, and then also not incentivizing the demolition of current rent stabilized units. So it's very vague right now. There's no TOC like this is a new policy, this is a new bonus. It's about studying. So I think the fire is not turned up, and this is what I get from what I've seen, to that this is happening. It's in a discovery mode. And multiple questions, but I think that will come forth. I just don't know what it does that goes beyond. What I gleaned is that they want to make it easier for, say I own a lot on Jefferson, me, little John Arnold in Jefferson Park. I own a lot on Jefferson. That's one lot that might fit 6 units. But to make that 6 units easier for me to develop, that doesn't take a developer buying 8 units to get economies of scale. I don't know how they're going to do that, but that seems to be the motion. I mean, the incentive, the intent. So I won. This is the website. Can everyone see this? It's livablecommunitiesinitiative.com. So this is I guess, the entity that's campaigning for this. It is linked to it. And when you type in Livable Communities Initiative Los Angeles City Council, this comes up. So this is the vision that they have. We've all seen it before, not to be cynical about that, but it's hard to know what policies will make this happen more easily and without upheaval or without the process problems that TOC density bonus have had. And if you go to the website, which is livablecommunitiesinitiative.com, it's very vague. It's flowery. It's idealistic. I'm not being cynical about it, but it's very idealistic about the, it's going to cost far less. They said a third of the cost, half the time. Beautiful 3 to 5 story buildings, and then they say lovely affordable housing. I know as an architect that the housing picture that they show here is not affordable to build. You cannot do it in this environment.
It's also a first floor unit.
So it's very challenging for me to see the imagery beyond about this, especially this kind of Parisian or East Coast city, and I don't know how to get there where TOC failed. So I don't know. That's where I come from. I don't know what it's going to come to, but I think it's not an emergency right now. It's not. We're not going to get rezoned in January. It's a discovery period. Everything says in 180 days. That's 6 months. So they were asking the planning department to report back in 180 days with their findings, which I would guess would be a policy proposal or some suggestions to enhance what we already have or to make it different in some real way. And then, but it's very optimistic. I don't know what that means. Way more grass and trees. I don't know how we get that in Los Angeles without more rain. But anyway, it's visionary, but I think that's where it is right now. So up to date,
I would move there.
What was it?
I said I would move there.
I know.
It's
Let's
nice.
all move to
But
Berlin and we'll live in.
Can I just make a snide, snarky remark?
Yeah.
I don't see any digital kiosks.
Yeah. So
Because it's a part of Paris. They're full of shit. I've
We're
seen
being
it.
recorded.
I've
We're being
seen it
recorded.
before.
We're being recorded.
gavel just
Sorry,
came
you
down on the
guys.
S-bomb.
Sorry.
So to date, just so we could put a box around this meeting, to date, Nandasi, one of our neighboring NCs, did write a very, very, very brief CIS, like the briefest CIS I've ever seen, that says basically, we support this, but make sure it doesn't override. I don't even say this supports it. It just said, make sure this doesn't override things we already have, specifically CPIOs, HPOZs, historic districts, whatever. So make sure there isn't an overlay that negates positive things that we all believe in.
Have
So
fought for.
So that we fought for or believe in, that we understand. It's also from an architect's standpoint, it gets very confusing if it's just another overlay and you pick which one gets you the most. So I think we can start to write just to affect the conversation. I think we could also wait to see what happens. I'll have an ear to this. I might even ask my colleagues, architectural colleagues, to contribute to the discovery period of this. So I don't know what would be most effective for us, except to express our concerns without being too cynical.
Well, I don't know that John, I don't know that we have to act on every single thing immediately that's on the agenda.
So we could do that. This is just an introduction to what it is. I'll post this website in the chat. And does anyone have an idea of what we might do to get our voice in early? We can always add to it later, or should we wait? It's so vague right now. I don't even know what to do. Oh, what you can do. Hey, answered. So you can see it's grassrootsy right now. Anyone?
Well, I have my hand up, but I don't.
Laura,
I've already lost the question that you just asked.
What can we do? What should we do? What's
Well, when we write our long letters, those are not actually community impact statements because there's that limit of 2,000 characters and spaces. So we could initially propose a community impact statement that's a little bit longer than Nandasi's, but not necessarily much longer. Or we could do nothing till the January board meeting. I mean, in other words, if city council's on hiatus, we don't need to file a community impact statement ASAP. But, because we will have another board meeting before they come off of hiatus, probably. My concern is they're always saying, and that little website you showed, the picture you just showed in their bullet points said the same thing, encourage that this happens in high opportunity areas, which is to say the West Side, near Ventura Boulevard. I mean, all the areas that already bulk at doing their fair share of affordable housing, whatever affordable housing may mean, they don't do it. A lot of that is because the land costs so much. So all of these initiatives to provide more and more incentives end up coming back here, and they're not necessarily projects that enhance the community. So I feel like there's something to be said, but I'm not positive yet what it is, about not just keeping our protections in place and not making this be an overlay on the above the overlay, kind of really defining where it fits within a group of see-through overlays. I mean, which layers on top of which layer. But also, if they really mean that this is supposed to be in high opportunity areas, please define that, because that definition keeps moving around. And one of the definitions is good transportation, and a completely different definition is access to amenities, schools, parks, right? So, you know, which definition are they using? They're not very good wordsmiths, people who write these things, the ordinances. So for example, you know, not this one, but the CPIO ordinance is being revised and goes to hearing tomorrow. One of the inserted pieces of language was when there's a conflict between the CPIO and the redevelopment plan, the LAMC shall prevail. Okay, so what does that mean? Is that the LAMC something else? Or is the CPIO prevailing over the redevelopment plan? Or are both of them outweighed by, you know, a third party? So, you know, that language is so unclear. And literally in a revised ordinance, that's what we would need to avoid here, because you know, we got these overlays for different reasons, but we have CPIO overlays, HPOZ overlays, and the redevelopment plans that we have are a result of the 1992 riot. The riot recovery and meant to revitalize our commercial corridors. And then we also have a specific plan on Crenshaw. So, you know, they all had good reasons why they were adopted. And it would not necessarily be a good thing to impose something higher than that, you know, that undoes all of it. Anyway, so I just think we want to make a comment about being more definitive as well.
Yep.
I just don't know if there's a rush.
I agree. I think I agree. I think we can all take initial, I'm writing everything down. We can all take our initial thoughts on this, because I think it would be rushed to do it tonight. My concerns is how can the city put its money where its mouth is and ensure their intents? I see a lot of intent about smaller scale, more accessibility to build wealth from a parcel. I don't see that happening on the West Side. Developers are very good about finding the loopholes and taking advantage of these things to, as Laura said, that will not necessarily enhance our community. It's to don't like to be a cynic. I'm not a cynic, but it's just there. I think it's ensuring that this initiative goes one step better, or one step better incentives than TOC or density bonus to get the desired outcome. Because right. I think the other programs have a mixed record of desired outcomes, and you know we see it all around us. We've actually been lucky in our neighborhood. We've got some good attractive developments that do enhance the community. 4th and Jefferson, Hollywood Community Housing on Washington. I think all these projects, whether you like them or not, are contributing, and I just hope that the city is able to do something that does what all these lofty idealistic things say, including having a lovely affordable unit versus a box with a window that's 400 square feet, and that's standard these days. So I know that because design a lot of them, try to make them as good as I can, believe me. But that said, I think it's lofty, but I just want to know how they channel that into a productive incentive that gets where they need to be. Any other comments? Any hands? So I propose that we put this aside. Everyone go home. We have a lot of committed planning and zoning attendees here. So chances are that a lot of us will be at the next time we hear the next meeting. So let's see how we can concoct, and maybe we also get a little more information about what the intent is. The motion that we just saw was from the Housing Committee. I believe there's another motion from the Transportation Committee. And again, it's just directives to explore. Anyone have a different idea? Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I would ask Chris Driscoll if he's still here, if this is what he was, he's here for this item. So he may just want to be listening to what we say.
Yeah, if you have any general questions, we deal with
He's unmuted, so he can answer.
Yeah, no, I was calling generally just to listen, to learn a little bit about it. And I just Googled the website, the entity and the group that is starting this, just an LA group that's a bunch of, architects and planners and bike people and whatnot. So there's some good ideas behind it, I think, but interesting to see how it'll be implemented. But yeah, no real comments at this time.
So I wrote down everything so I can bring them back for next meeting, but let's all think about it, and then let's see if we can concoct an excellent CIS with some body to it, and have our voice heard. We've done it before, we'll do it again. Okay, moving on. If no other comments to the last item on our agenda, and Laura has to.
Yeah, I'm muting, I'm stopping my video, but I'm just not walking away this time because I'm in the middle of.
Yeah, I hate to say there's a big nothing there, because there has been no news about 1848 Gramercy. We do know that there's some discussion about the developer changing something. This has been going on for so long that I don't see any substantial change that would affect the overall, putting another color panel on the front, or planting another some more landscape in the front, while making it more pleasant, won't cover up what everyone's anxious about, which is the fact that 1848 Gramercy, as proposed, has 12 waivers and incentives, which bust every zoning standard that we know, and setbacks, open space, busts its own rules that it says it wants to follow, and then says, oh, we're not going to follow that one, but we still want the incentives that come with it. So I'm not holding out a lot of faith, but we have no news. So no news means no change. And I'm going to advocate that, unless there's a significant change that would cause us to change our support, we shouldn't spend any more time on it, because we've already spent, I'm going to guess collectively, hundreds and hundreds of hours on this, and nothing has come of it, except I think it's gotten worse. It's got bigger over the years. It was much smaller a few years ago. So that's all I have. I don't know. I looked and there wasn't anything else there. I will reach out to the planning department and make sure if there are changes, we hear about them. And that's a question to Raphael, who's the planner in charge of the CPAO board. That's it. So I don't know. I don't have the, I'm gonna go back to the agenda. Any questions on 1848 Gramercy? Comments? Okay, seeing none. And any follow-up in previous cases? I don't have any. Laura, do you want to come back? Any previous cases?
Yeah, I'm coming back. Well, yeah, the South LA CPIO is tomorrow at the Planning Commission, and Teresa got a whole paragraph in it where they took the suggestion and they added in that essentially that for projects they would check in with urban forestry at the beginning. I'm really putting it in lay terms, but the whole paragraph reflecting Teresa's request, but the complete and utter rejection of the NANDC, North Area Neighborhood Development Council Task Force request, which was to change how they determine, the request is to change how they determine what a eligible historic resource is. You know, stop using Survey LA and just basically say any building 60 years or older is an eligible resource, which only means that the developer would need to do a further evaluation. And then they hire somebody real good and it gets turned down anyway for historic status. But at the moment, they've rejected that, and worse, recharacterized what the City Planning Commission and the City Council adopted in 2017, which there is language in the current ordinance for character residential overlays that says they are to utilize Survey LA or other, actually use the word other, historic resource survey. So there are plenty of other, community redevelopment agency, their planning department's own survey that they paid for in 1996. And there are others. And they've recharacterized it to say that the Planning Commission and City Council adopted the idea that in the future a new survey would be done. And that's not at all, it just didn't happen. And I feel that that's an error on the part of staff to even say that, because the current Planning Commission includes a whole lot of commissioners who voted in 2017 to instruct the staff to change the language to the current language, which is other survey. So, so that's kind of a big deal. We had, UNNC had also asked that the changes, the new protections of affordable housing, the protections for tenants displaced or, you know, renter displacement, be applied across all of the existing neighborhoods that have character residential overlays, and they've also refused to do that. They only are addressing them. So I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna talk.
Great.
And then
congratulations, Teresa, you got a paragraph.
no, I mean, they definitely took Teresa's suggestion, which we put in the UNNC letter, too hard. And
Excellent.
Congratulations.
So Teresa, your hand's up. Do you want to first of all elaborate and do a victory lap for us?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much, John. It wasn't just, yes, so we've been talking about this for a long time. How do we get UFD involved in the process earlier during this development phase to make sure that the trees are considered? And I think it's Laura's language that said before the application is deemed complete. So, you know, the work we've done here and the work I'm doing with the South LA trees, we came up with some language, and that's what we talked about when the two planners came in. And we also referenced the motion, the Harris-Dawson motion. So Laura mentioned it the other day, and when I pulled up the agenda and I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, they actually did. So it's in draft. So hopefully they'll accept the amendment tomorrow. But it is the beginning of what I hope will be, you know, out of this CPIO, but all to other community plans. And actually, I hope it's part of that report back that we're expecting from Connie Palatini Lipton, that she's supposed to be coming back with the city forest officer. So all developments will have to be evaluated, or at least submit something to UFD and in the beginning, before the application is deemed complete. So yeah, that was a big win. And the other thing, John, I wanted to ask, it's not old business, but I wasn't quite sure where to do it. I requested that we put something on the agenda, and that was motion 221292, which has to do with some housing that's some funding for $16 million revenue bond for housing at 1938 South Harvard Boulevard and 4230 West Adams Boulevard. And I would like to find out what this bond is. Is this for public housing? What kind of housing? It says for 48 unit multifamily rental housing. So if I could be so bold to ask again, can we have that on the agenda to have a further discussion, or have you guys report to the community what this is about? I appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like, because it hasn't popped up on it. I don't know. I don't know what the bond, I know there's certain affordable housing projects do get voted on for bonds. I mean, it's funding basically from the city.
Well, there's
Because
I sent, I emailed to you and to Laura. I know Laura mentioned that she received it.
Yeah,
But it is in the CFSM system 22-1292. So
Okay, let me take a look at that. Sorry if I emails come.
yeah, that's okay. I understand. That's why I brought it up now. So.
Let me take a look at that. And
Teresa, is that the right number? That doesn't seem like a right number.
No, it's 22. Sorry, if you let me share, I can bring it up. But it's 22-1292.
Go ahead.
Here, I'm going to make you a co-host. You can share. I thought I had sent you back some deeds. I had looked up the ownership and the zoning.
No, you didn't send me back the deeds.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I had definitely done a little research.
So we definitely have to. We're on the cusp of Brown Act. So I think as Teresa is like information. I think information only to inform a future discussion.
Yes.
Correct.
And so this is the motion here. So if you guys get a chance, I'd like to talk about it. And you see the date, and it is from our council district. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, I'll take a look at that and see what is up with it. Is it imminent? Was it passed?
No, was it passed? No, I think it's November the 21st.
Oh no, it did pass. No, here's the thing. It actually did. I'm suddenly remembering what it was, and I swear, Teresa, maybe it's in my draft and I didn't hit send. It read like the city was simply reviewing another agency's issuance of bonds, so that it was not an further action item, but it led to a whole lot of questions. I know we're not on the agenda for discussion, but one of those two buildings already has far more units than would be allowed in the zone. So it was a curious thing to me that maybe it was about a rehab project as opposed to construction.
Yeah,
But,
so maybe it's not a planning and zoning issues. They were approving a project. They were providing funding for, as Laura said.
well, it was another agency issuing the bond. It wasn't City of LA.
But can we have just
Hakeem
a
has
further
asked you to
discussion?
Sure. We'll put it on and find out what we can find out. I mean, I'd be really interested if there was a entitlement attached to that, or a building that's going up because of it, or the $16 million is going
Okay.
to. So
I'm trying to jump in. Teresa, Hakeem is asking you to repost
Hakeem
it.
is going to talk. Can we let Hakeem?
Yeah, he's asking you to repost the motion.
Oh.
Yeah, that was my motion. So that $16 million is the debt limit that's being established for the acquisition of two separate projects. So those are existing buildings. There's like 40 something units in total, but one of them is a planned community development and the other one's an apartment building. And the deal is that we're going to allow that property acquisition company, which will then operate a permanent affordable housing at those locations for a permanence of 55 years. So what it's doing is it's effectuating really the sale of those two properties. And then as a measure of promoting affordable housing and preserving affordable housing in the district, we're going to covenant those units. So one property is going for 12 million and the other one's going for like 6 million, I think.
So if I can summarize that, it sounds like it's existing buildings with an array of affordability or a market rate, and they're being transferred into affordable housing, but there's no physical change happening, maybe not even a change of tenants or change of anything except for them being covenanted as for affordable housing for 55 years. Is that a proper source?
You got it for the most part. So they're naturally occurring affordable housing currently, and the new owner will be required to income qualify the tenants that are there for the affordability levels that are being sought after. So they're going to go after extremely low income to low income, which is basically like almost like to the moderate income level. And there will be some substantial upgrade to the properties, including ADA improvements. There will be new windows, doors, those kinds of things to really extend the life of the properties. These are already 30 and 45-year-old properties.
So, I'm going to ask informational questions. So
Sure.
I know that we had a project that was fully market rate in Glendale. The city of Glendale financed a sale of that building to help a developer buy it to convert it to affordable housing so they could help reach their affordability goals for the city. Is that something similar that the city is subsidizing, basically to turn existing housing, naturally occurring or otherwise, into permanent affordable housing for 55 years?
You got it. So this is part of the city's strategy to really curb displacement of low-income individuals. So we're looking at vehicles, the bond measure being the vehicle to preserve affordable housing long-term. So we know that this particular, where these two projects are, where these locations are, they're in West Adams. And one of them is right next door to a new market rate project that has one-bedroom apartments for $3,000 to $4,000. So the goal here was really to preserve the affordability and then also to integrate. In one case, there will be services for the residents. And in another case, it's just to preserve the affordability level.
And oh my gosh, I had a question. I can't remember it. Okay.
Well,
Where did the money?
I have a
Where
question.
did the money come from? Was it a state money? Was it from a bond we approved? Was it from some other bucket?
Yeah. So the city has signed on to it so that the owner can seek outside bond financing. So it will be private capital bonds that they seek. It could be a combination of state bonds and or private capital bonds that they seek out. But the measure in that motion is setting a TEFRA hearing, which is basically a statutory requirement to qualify for state bonds. So they're going to have another hearing December 9th, and that hearing will be held by the housing department, where any community input from the residents or anyone otherwise can make their stake.
Oh, well, that's great. Thank you for that update. That's enlightening, and it's really good to see other mechanisms that are happening.
I do have a question.
And I do too. Yeah, Hakeem, can you tell us about the services? When you say there are going to be services, what type of services? And also, will this housing be part of all of the other affordable housing that we are accumulating in this part of town compared to the west side?
We don't know exactly what operator and provided services will be rendered yet, but it could be anything from people who are returning from homelessness, or it could be women who are escaping domestic violence. It could be a number of things when we talk about services. The motion really speaks to enabling that owner to seek the financing to kind of really structurally solidify what's going to be provided in the near future. But the main thing with the TEFRA motion was to set in place a hearing for the bond financing so that they can acquire the property, and also to stipulate the covenants for the affordability.
Okay.
Yeah, so my concern with projects like this, again, in quote, naturally occurring affordable things, is that there will be families or individuals who will not qualify to stay in the building. And is part of the funding for relocation services for them?
Absolutely. So the relocation of anyone who may be displaced due to income qualification would be statutory. So the rules about displacement assistance would still apply. And again, that's a sliding scale depending on age, work status, income, and that would determine the amount of displacement assistance that an individual or a family would receive.
Yeah, so that's always my concern because, I will say my experience on a completely unrelated project that down on Flower Drive, the families, there's demolitions pending. I don't think it's happened yet. It's been a couple of years, but of 7 fourplexes that were definitely naturally occurring, affordable, and each family got $60,000, which is a lot more than the statutory. But from what I'm hearing, because these are longtime people, from what I'm hearing, they were not really able to find housing that was sufficient at the prices that they were already paying, and a lot of them ended up moving out of the community. So it's a lot of money, but in the end, they were still displaced. So that's my concern. But I'm not going to say I don't like this idea. I'm just saying I'm always concerned about that.
I hear you, and that's a very valid perspective. I think that this particular property, this particular group of properties is really located in a high development propensity area. And the bigger concern is that if we don't preserve this older stock of housing and infuse a funding mechanism to bringing it up to date and extend the life, then eventually, a developer will come in and demolish it and displace all of those families and come to build a TOC project with a very limited affordability scope. So this is kind of like in scope with the strategy to preserve as much housing as we can that's currently affordable. These properties have been in a trust with a family for many, many years. And, there hasn't been really much incentive to go to the market rate. But, there is that threat of other developers who are also courting these exact same properties for demolition and redevelopment. And that's really what we're trying to avert here.
So I think we've already busted Brown Act to some degree, even though we haven't really discussed with any opinion.
No.
So I would say, I'm gonna say, Hakeem, Hakeem, I really appreciate the depth of your knowledge and understanding what's going on here. So I really appreciate your being here and explain that to us. If we agendize this next time, I find it enlightening, and also to know about the mechanisms of the city. Can you basically repeat everything if we ask the same questions, and we agendize it first, so you don't have to stay around for the whole meeting?
Yeah, I think it would even be amenable to try to get the developer company here to explain it for you, so that they can better answer questions about the proposed operation. Yeah. And the scope of the improvements that they're trying to do.
And I think that would be in the name of not approvals, or not we're approving this, but I think it's just so we know. We always like to know what's going on in the neighborhood, for better or for worse, and so we all just know, and we're all informed because we all talk, and then we can all just spread the word of what's and I think it'll just cause it might put not cause an alarm if any changes do happen. So I think it would be a good thing. So if we can agendize that, and if there's any meeting you won't be here, let me know, and we'll make sure it will be at a meeting that you are here.
Sure.
Okay. Hakeem, I see you put a comment about 15 minutes ago. Repost that motion. Which motion are you talking about?
That's the one we were just talking about.
The one we were just speaking about.
Okay, great. Okay.
Thank you very much, John.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Thanks, Teresa. Sorry that didn't get on for this week, but I'm glad we are educated.
So John, speaking of future agendas, Do you have a calendar in front of you? Because we need to figure out, we'll certainly have a December. Is that me? It's so sad. Is that me making this noise?
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's my steak. I'm flipping it. So
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Very good. Now you're making me hungry. December 7 is probably an easy one to confirm that we're going to have that meeting, first Wednesday of December. But how's everybody? But especially John, how are you on December 21st?
Oh boy.
And or Wednesday, January 4th.
January 4th is fine. I would say let's take a break for December 21st because not much is going to be happening. That's going to be hot. So I would
Hanukkah
say
begins.
I would say
not.
December 7 and January 4, but not December 21st.
Okay.
Great. Hakeem,
then-
are you gonna be here on December 7th? Do you think? So we can talk about that.
I can make sure it gets on my calendar.
Excellent. So we'll do that. Okay. Noted, and I think that's it. And thanks everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hakeem, for coming. And
Good
everybody.
night, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night.
And don't forget, everybody, save the chat if you are interested in the chat.
Good
And
night.
Laura, you have to reclaim host because if I leave, the whole thing will end. So.
Oh, no, I only made you a co-host. I'm
Oh,
still
okay.
host.
All right.
Okay,
Good night,
thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you
Good night.
again, John.
Thanks, Teresa.
Good night.
Good night.